Hey everyone, Darshanmaharaja here. On Friday, I promised that I would be putting out a video on an article by Andrew Coyne in the Globe and Mail. The article is titled, it's about the ongoing dispute with India on the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. And the article is titled, India killing a Canadian is not just like America killing bin Laden. So in this article, Mr. Coyne has basically tried to show how the two countries, Canada on one hand or USA on one hand, and countries like India on the other, are different at different levels of morality, and therefore the country with the higher level of morality, if it carries out killing, extrajudicial killing, then it is somehow justified, and a country like India doing that is somehow to be condemned. So, first of all, before I get to the main point, both sides are bringing up this argument about America killing bin Laden. It is a variation of Godwin's law that has sprung up in discussions about this issue. Just as you know, Godwin's law says that if an online discussion progresses far enough, at some point somebody will bring up a reference to Hitler or more generally to Nazis. So it's supposed to be a clinching evidence, and nothing needs to be said beyond that. That is the mindset of the people making that argument. So in the case of this Hardeep Nijjar's killing, we have invented our own variation where America killing bin Laden is supposed to be a clinching argument, and the other side busies itself in proving that it's not a clinching argument. There is a whole new video I can make. I'm not bringing up those facts here so as not to digress too much. But there is a whole video to be made which shows, the facts show that the killing of bin Laden is not to be understood in the simplistic manner in which a lot of people believe it to be. Suffice to say here that while we were fighting the Taliban and invaded Afghanistan because the Taliban gave refuge or sanctuary to Osama bin Laden, we were doing that, but the person, the individual who received Osama bin Laden at the Asadabad airport in Khost province was our ally in the fight against the Taliban. So we were fighting the Taliban for giving sanctuary to Osama bin Laden, but the person who received him in Afghanistan was later on our side. So these things tend to be complex. Geopolitics is complex, and especially when you involve certain countries in the Middle East, in Central Asia, where Afghanistan is, and South Asia, Indian subcontinent. These things can be extraordinarily complex and cannot be reduced to this kind of binary thinking. All the fans of non-binary concepts everywhere else take note. So, first of all, that is this Godwin's law instance. And then because of that, the more relevant example is not being looked at. And that is the US killing Anwar Al-Awlaki, who was an American citizen and not by naturalization. He was an American citizen by birth. He was born in New Mexico state, although he was of Yemeni origin or Yemeni descent. Now, he was killed in 2011 during the presidency of the Nobel Peace Prize winner, President Obama. He was killed by a drone strike. It was an extrajudicial killing. There had been no due process. As I understand, even no charges had been filed against him. He was famous basically for making videos and posting them on YouTube, which were said to be radicalizing Muslim youth. So why his YouTube couldn't be shut down? Which one do you snuff out? The YouTube channel or the individual who was at that time living in Yemen? And I don't think there have been many American citizens who have been assassinated like this by the United States of America. So that, I think, is a more relevant example where the allegation existed at the official level, but no charges had been laid. And, he was just said to be a key organizer of Al-Qaeda. No proof brought forward. Later on, after 3 years after his killing in 2014, there were some documents, I think, got declassified, and that document said that it was justifying the killing as a lawful act of war. Now, can a country be at war with a citizen of its own? These are the deeper issues that haven't been analyzed, or maybe they have, and I haven't come across that. But this, I think, is the more relevant example for us to look at. Even in the case of bin Laden, there were no charges, no due process, but that's a complicated case. As I said, a whole new video can be made about that. If you want, let me know in the comments, and if I get more than 10 requests along these lines combined on YouTube and Twitter, then I'll make a video on what facts I have come across in Osama bin Laden's case. But in the case of Anwar Al-Awlaki, whatever has been written about seems to be non-existent as far as Canadian commentariat is concerned, because the other side is saying bin Laden, and they are saying this is not like bin Laden. So that's where you have a stalemate. You can't make progress. Both sides are dug in their positions. But more relevantly, there was this case of a Canadian FLQ member who was killed in Paris in 1971. His first name was Mario. Last name I'm not pronouncing because I'm not sure if I'm going to mangle the pronunciation, but it is spelled Bachand. Now, he was killed there. He was an FLQ member, so known to be not in the good books of Canadian government, let me put it mildly here. And author Michael McLaughlin has written in a book that the killers were assisted by security and intelligence branch of RCMP or RCMP Security Service, whatever. The organization seems to have changed in the meanwhile, so maybe we don't have that exact nomenclature now. But this has never been proved, nor has it ever been proved to be somebody else. So, we are again in the same kind of a twilight zone territory, whether it is in the killing of Anwar Al-Awlaki or Mario, his last name I'm not going to pronounce again, or Hardeep Nijjar, where one government says or one party says that they have credible intelligence, proof, charges, whatever, not formal charges, of someone being a terrorist. And then there is the person ends up dead. There are questions about whether this was an extrajudicial killing by a government of a country. This is where, and living in the Middle East and Africa, I have seen this is a very major factor in how people view Western countries. And these are all sensitive areas, East Africa, Middle East. They form their views based on this stubborn refusal to accept certain facts on the part of the Western governments or their media or their establishment more broadly. There are geopolitical issues that require hard decisions to be made and principles be damned. That is the reality of life. We may like it, we may not like it, but that is the reality of life. And on the other hand, we are preachifying to the world about principles, what they are doing wrong, how they are not living up to our standards, where we also, when it suits us, abandon those standards. So the disparity between our actions based on geopolitical priorities or imperatives on one hand, and our preachifying on the other. The gap is what bothers a lot of people around the world. Back in the days of global war on terror, the most common saying in Pakistan, which was kind of caught in the crossfire, the most important, most popular saying there was, दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा दहशतगर्द, the biggest terrorist of the world, about America. Because they may not articulate it, they may not be able to articulate it or whatever, but they sense this gap between the actions and the preachifying. And then we should at least be honest enough to say that, okay, this is our need of the hour, so we are going to do it. And then you stop preachifying to others, because they are also going to do what suits them at the moment. Now, this is without commenting on whether India was behind the killing of Nijjar or not. Independently of that inquiry, we can say that countries will often act in their own interest, and at that point, principle will take a backseat. But this is the kind of article that is a perfect example of what makes people angry. After 9/11, there was a big debate in the US and by spillover in Canada as well, as to why do they hate us. And this is one of the factors. And this kind of confirmation of what other people believe is wrong with the Western world, coming from the major newspaper, one of the most well-known and well-entrenched members of the commentariat, coming from that kind of a source does not work to our benefit. So when I saw this, his article, my immediate reaction was that this is an example of Western supremacism. This term has not been used until now, but I think it neatly encapsulates this attitude, Western supremacism, that what we are doing has to be right. The world is divided between good people and bad people, and the good people do the dividing. So we are the good people, we will decide who is bad. In fact, Mr. Coyne says that in his article, we are the good guys. No, you don't claim that. If you are a good guy, others will say that. So that was my initial reaction, and on reflection, my reaction remains unchanged. To the extent that it has changed, I don't think it is an example of Western supremacism or Canadian exceptionalism. It actually oozes those qualities. Let me know what you think in the comments, and do let me know if you want to know about the all the complex circumstances surrounding Osama bin Laden being in Afghanistan, and I'll make a hopefully shorter video on that. And I look forward to your responses, your comments, and your replies. Until the next time, goodbye and be well.